When it comes to Diego Luna, there's the personality.
Save, rebound, Luna scores! Diego Luna!
It's exactly what this team needed.
Luna, great dance, Luna!
Thank you very much. The man is on fire. Hello, sunshine. Welcome to the State of the Union, presented by Yerba Madre, the boost you need when you want to win. Drink Yerba Madre, come to life. I'm Alexi Lalas, and this is where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. This show is live, as it will be throughout the tournament, following each and every day of action. This show, we review, day 13 and the Gold Cup semifinal matches, including the United States and Mexico. And we'll also look ahead to the final on Sunday. Oh, yeah, delicious final. But first, joining me as always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mosse, a soccer savant and a Fox Soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire. And our good friend is back, Maurice. They call me Maurice Edu. How are you, my friend?
Hey, we're in a final, so I'm happy.
Right?
I'm happy. That's all that matters to me at this point in time. It's been a fun day, tense day in certain moments, but we're in a final.
How you doing, my friend?
This guy can't get enough of us, huh?
I know. It was wonderful. We got right done downstairs at the other set, and he was ready to go. He was up here before me, just raring to go. I mean, once you get the State of the Union in you, you cannot get it out. It's kind of
you
like,
have a good time. You seek it out more. You know
right?
what I mean?
And
you're
look
enjoying something.
And you look good, too.
I try, bro. I try.
Oh, my goodness. All right, listen. We were told to don't bore us, get to the chorus, so shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Time now for the boost of the game presented by Yerba Madre. Yerba Madre, the boost you need when you want to win. Drink Yerba Madre and come to life. All right. The legend of Luna.
Now, I do have to point this out. The instructions Sean gave were for me to recap the match first, then we get to the boost of the game.
No.
Did it in
but we also got instructions earlier in the week in terms of our crack crew and the analytics that they have going on there, that we were not to mess around. We were going to get to what the people want to hear, because we have all the analytics about when they come in and when they don't come in, and when we're talking about stuff that we're doing, when we're watching, all that kind of stuff. So here, we're going right to what people want to talk about, and I'm telling you right now, Sean or anybody else, they want to talk about Diego Luna. So we're going to go right to Diego Luna. He scored 2 goals. If you don't know that, then where the hell have you been all day? He scored 2 goals. The United States won. The United States is going to another final. And this guy is a star that people want to not only recognize, but they want to celebrate. So I'm sorry if I'm going off script here when it comes to the State of the Union. We are going to talk about Diego Luna.
You know, we were in the control room observing you in the final minutes of today's match. You were very tense, my friend. You got into this.
Yeah, I was worried that this U.S. team was going to, because we talk about bend but don't break. I was worried they were going to break, and they didn't. I thought it was just a wonderful exercise and experience for this group and for Mauricio Pochettino. And so, all right, so look, again, I want to talk about Diego Luna. I think, Mo, that Diego Luna is second to Christian Pulisic, and I'm going to say this again, because I think it bears repeating, and I think it's a compliment. Second only to Christian Pulisic when it comes to taking players on, so dribbling and forcing the issue with some urgency, and more importantly, with success, which we saw today, with controlling the ball, maintaining possession in a crowd. And I would argue that he is better defensively than Christian Pulisic. Do you agree or disagree?
Do you know what? I think I agree with most of that, yeah. And the thing that I like the most about Luna is that it's like persistence. Like he constantly, every time he gets the ball, he wants to get at defenders. He wants to take on defenders. He wants to be the difference maker. And we need that. We need that because I think to your point that you were making with that statement, Christian, when he's in the team, bears the bulk share of the responsibility to be the decisive player, to be the creative player, to create goals, to finish off goals. And now what we've seen through this Gold Cup, what we've seen through Diego Luna's performances and previous appearances, he's got that edge. He's got that fire. He's got that difference maker ability, right? We don't have a ton of those players in
No,
this
we
pool.
don't have anybody else. Like who, Weah, but he's much more of, the speed and push it by you. So I don't think that there's anybody else in the pool right
And
now
even
that
Tillman
actually
plays it different.
And Tillman plays it different. And obviously the guys in the middle, whether it's Western or something, that's not their game. That's not what they do. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm not saying it hasn't been done before. But consistently, when Diego Luna gets that ball, first thing he looks at is, how am I going to beat somebody? And has the skill to maintain that possession. That creates incredible confidence for a team. And I love that about him. Now, I also said today, and I think this also bears repeating, is when it comes to sports, being rational and having perspective, that's not something that you necessarily need to do. But I guess because it's Diego Luna and because he has had this incredible moment and everybody's talking about him, there are still a lot of people out there saying, hey, slow your roll. You don't want to get too excited. No, I'm not going to apologize for getting excited. I'm not going to apologize for saying that this young man has energized me and has energized people out there. Do I think he's the next coming? Do I think that he is as good as Christian Pulisic? No, but I'm telling you right now, the amount of people that have said, I would rather have a Diego Luna who I know is going to fight, who I know is going to give everything, who I know wants to be there, and who I can see cares, than other players that maybe have a better pedigree or maybe have a better CV so far, or who knows, maybe are even more talented. So, anyway.
I thought Diego Luna would be the star of this team this summer. Malik Tillman threatened to usurp him early on, but I think it's now going to end up being Luna. And what's interesting is Luna and Tillman can coexist on this team, but I think they're essentially competing for that starting number 10 spot next summer.
Ooh, okay.
Because I do think Pulisic will come back in on the left wing, and so you're only going to have room for one. I know Landon tried to find room for all three by moving Luna to the right wing. That, to me, wouldn't be getting the best out of him. So I think you are looking at a scenario. I'm pretty sure one of them, Luna or Tillman, will be a starter at the World Cup. It's just a question of which one.
So these are champagne problems. But we know that Christian Pulisic, he can play other positions. But let's be honest. At least I think, and we know we've seen it at AC Milan on the right-hand side, I think that his most comfortable position and his most effective position is on that left side, taking players on the off wing, if you will. And the reality is, from what we've seen so far with Luna, is that's also where he sets up shop. We even saw it today, starting on that left-hand side. I know the first goal he scored with a broken play and ended up on the right-hand side, but that second goal was like classic taking players on, beating somebody. So if the World Cup started today, given what we know now and what we think about Diego Luna, does Diego Luna make your starting lineup? And if so, where are you putting him on the field relative to these other players?
It's probably going to sound crazy because of his performance today, but no, I don't think he does.
He doesn't start.
And so I would play a 4-2-3-1, and my three across that line just behind the number 9 would be Christian on the left, Tim Weah on the right, and then probably Malik Tillman at that number 10 position. And Diego Luna, Malik Tillman, I agree with Mosse. They're competing for that number 10 spot. The reason why I lean that way is we've seen Tillman more as a number 10, although when Luna plays wide, he has the freedom to go and find the game, to roam, to operate as a number 10 at times. I keep Tim Weah on the right side because you need balance. I don't want every single player that I have playing wide to have the tendency to want to come centrally. So Tim Weah gives you that pace.
Plus
he gives
speed,
you that threat in behind. He gives you that direct play. And then if it's Tillman, and then Christian on the left, or if it's Luna and Tillman and Christian on the left, they have the ability to play off one another. They can find different spots. They have that flexibility. They have those two. I would give them real freedom to go and just find the game to be the difference maker.
Is it complete hearsay to say, because I know there's people out there right now after seeing what Diego Luna has done, and maybe they're caught in the moment and prisoners of the moment and recency bias and all that kind of stuff, to say that he should start in that left position and
over Christian?
Yes, over Christian. Okay.
No.
Even if that means putting Christian someplace else.
Where? As a number 10?
Put him on the right side. Or put him at the number 10.
No, and it goes back to what I was saying before. Like, I'm not going to take – Christian's going to start for me, like, regardless. He's going to start for me on that left-hand side. And then so the one question would be, do I think it makes sense to get Luna on the pitch at the expense of Tim Weah? And my answer to that is no.
It's okay.
I keep Tim Weah in.
That you're even saying it apologetically, I think that just shows how much Luna is glowed up.
The larger point is what you're looking for next summer is a blend of Christian Pulisic's and Diego Luna's. We all felt like the previous team was growing a bit stale, getting a bit soft. So sure, if it's about just getting the 11 most talented players on the field, somebody like a Diego Luna or Sebastian Berhalter might not crack that lineup. But there's a sense that you need, alongside some of the more talented players, a couple of guys like that to bring a toughness to the team, a different kind of mentality. So you're looking for that right blend next summer that could translate into a successful World Cup.
And there's a role to play. There's definitely a role to play because depending on the opponent, maybe you want to be more aggressive, and that means that you play Luna as a number 10 and alongside Christian, Tim Weah, whoever else. But I definitely think based off performances through this tournament, just the everything that Diego Luna embodies, right? The like kind of street ball mentality that he plays with, but it's still within a system. It's not like he's just taking shortcuts and saying, I'm a number 10. I have the freedom to just do my damage in the final third. I don't need to track.
And he works
No,
defensively.
This guy works his
tracks
ass off.
back,
He tracks back. He's covering
passing
ground.
lanes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I'd love to see like the numbers post game and of how much ground he covers. And by the way, that's Malik Tillman as well. They both do an incredible amount of work off the ball. And so I agree with Mosse. You need these kind of pieces to complement your team and give you the best chance going forward.
Now we're going to stay on Luna, but I thought Jenny Taft did a great interview with him after the match. Let's take a listen.
You were the difference maker tonight, a first half brace. You've played with such confidence really throughout this whole tournament. Where is that confidence coming from?
No, yeah, I think it's just finding the rhythm, and I think, you know, being able to get the freedom from the coaching staff and from the team that know that they're going to have my back, and the trust of the defensive responsibilities allows me to just do what I do on the ball.
How much pride do you take representing the red, white, and blue and wearing that crest?
Yeah, it's an honor. I'm extremely grateful, and I think every single one of these players, you know, think about it the same way I do, is that this is the #1 dream that we've had as a kid, and we're going to fight for this to have as many chances to wear it as we can.
See, that's what people want to hear. And then you combine it with what he does on the field. And look, I know it's the whole package, right? It's the tattoos and it's the hair and the handlebar mustache and the fight and the bleeding and all that kind of stuff. You put that all together with a really, really good player who does the things that you want to see, says the things that you want to hear, and you very, very quickly will become a fan favorite. Now, he's bursting on the scene here. And we've talked a little bit on air today about, the route that he took to get here and the history that he has. You want to expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, so born in California to parents of Mexican descent, not long ago was playing in the USL, then started to emerge with RSL, but last year was very annoyed at not being included in the Olympic squad. He turned down the opportunity to be an alternate on that team, contemplated switching his allegiance to Mexico, decided to stick it out with the U.S., and he's really emerged this year, and now we're talking about him being a potential starter at the World Cup. So it's an incredible story for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have time on air to get into the whole thing about the Olympic team, and I know Landon kind of harped on it, and I disagree with Landon in that I think two things can be true. He can be this player right now and still, from a coaching perspective, have not fit in, and that's what coaches do. They have to decide it. But to kind of go back and say, well, why weren't you able to bring this player? It's not as if they didn't recognize him. It's not as if they didn't identify him. Everybody knew who he was. So he's not falling through the cracks. But if and when a coach says, no, this is not the way that I want to play, or this is not the type of player I want for whatever he's doing on the field or off the field, that's fine. That's a choice. You don't look good when he then is starting for the national team and we're talking constantly about him. But I think it's a little unfair to retroactively go back and say, well, why didn't you do this? Because all of us at a certain point, we're at a moment where a coach didn't pick us or it didn't go well. And it could be a million different reasons. And oftentimes it's circumstantial in that moment. So in this moment, in this summer, when Pochettino said, I'm going to bring a B team, C team, whatever the hell you want to call it, that's where he was going to thrive and that's where he was going to succeed.
I just like that. First of all, I think there's a lot of merit to what you're saying there. But to me, it's more about his response, right? Like he said, no, I don't want to be an alternate. Mm-hmm. And then he put his head down and he went to work. He went to work at the club level to earn more call-ups with the national team. And then when the call-ups came, Diego Luna was ready. Like when that door was open, when they allowed him to peek inside, he kicked it down, and now he's balling at the highest level for the national team. And that last line from that interview with Jenny Taft, to me, he didn't even need to say that. He didn't need to say that. He didn't need to express and communicate to us how much every single opportunity he gets to put on the national team shirt means to him, because you see it. You see it in how he plays. I mean, there's a lot of players this summer who have kind of emerge and their performances kind of communicate that those same values and the same appreciation for wearing that shirt. But Diego Luna truly, truly embodies that.
It's interesting that Pochettino keeps subbing him out, and we can use this to segue to talking about other aspects of the match. Pochettino made subs sooner in this match than he did against Costa Rica. The first one was Aronson for De La Torre, but then he made a double sub, which was very controversial. Tolkien and McGlynn came in for Adams and Luna, and the U.S. conceded right after. Did you think that was a mistake?
It did kind of strike me as odd. Tyler Adams, and when you look at that midfield, I mean, the most experienced, the player who probably covers the most ground, shows the most aggression, leadership qualities. So if I'm trying to see out a game, he's a guy I would keep on the pitch, right? I want him on the pitch because I know he has those capabilities. He's shown it in big matches. He's shown it in World Cup experience.
But he's kind of had a quiet tournament. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because sometimes the stuff that he does goes unnoticed. That's just part of the deal. But in the past, we've talked much more effusively about Tyler Adams and his performance, and it's been, I guess, much more impactful.
Yeah, I think sometimes, well, one, I still want him on the pitch.
Yes.
I want him on the pitch.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
To me, he's a 90-minute guy, leader, armband on his arm. I think part of it, though, is he's been overshadowed because so many guys have taken steps in the right direction. Guys that maybe weren't expected to, and guys that we've kind of also anticipated, hey, what would they do with this opportunity, right? Guys like Tillman, guys like Luna, guys like Matt Freese, right? The list goes on and on. Chris Richards, Sebastian Berhalter. So we've kind of, do I think that there's more for Tyler Adams? For sure. And I think that because we've seen it. But I still would want him on the pitch, to your question. I want him on the pitch helping to see out a game in a knockout game, a game where it's win or go home.
You mentioned Matt Freese, and Pochettino ran back the same lineup, and he's been kind of consistent with that, and I like it because you grow together. Matt Freese is interesting because he had that incredible moment, the viral moment, if you will, saving all those penalties. And yet, when I think about Matt Freese through this tournament, the times where he is confident and comfortable, at least he looks like it, and then therefore makes me feel like it, were during the penalties. And yet, I don't think at any time through this tournament, in the run of play, have I ever felt that he looks confident and in control of what is going on. And he's made some saves. He had a nice save today that may or may not have been going on net, but he had to make this save. But it's not as if he's ever stood on his head for this team other than that penalty moment. So I'm still left with, it's great and it's wonderful, and I'm glad he had that moment, but is he really an answer to this question about who's going to start? I think he's put himself in the conversation, but I worry about the 90 minutes of the actual game.
Tonight was interesting for Matt Freese. I would say, yeah, there were a couple moments that were nervy, but in saying that, you say that he hasn't stood on his head. He hasn't really had to, right? Yeah. He had the blunder against Haiti. But then the subsequent games, there weren't moments that he missed, or there weren't moments where he was called upon that he didn't answer the question.
Maybe I'm being unfair, but
I do hear what you're saying. But
the aura and the confidence that goalkeepers sometimes emit, I just don't think it's there yet.
The bigger story as far as the goalkeeper situation is Matt Turner not starting rather than Matt Freese starting. I just think it's notable that Pochettino has thrown this race wide open again. Freese was the other option at this Gold Cup, but had it been Schulte or Steffen there, he might have gone with him. He was just looking to get somebody in there other than Matt Turner to sort of send the message that that position is still open for next summer.
But you got to also realize, like, that's the nature of opportunity, right? Yep. Some guys, you're in the, first of all, you earn a roster spot, regardless if you're a part of the initial roster or if you're an alternate or whatever the case is. Once you're in camp, you've earned the right to be in camp. And so when your name gets called upon, it's about you being prepared and you showing up and you making the most of your moment. So I wouldn't sit here and rule out the possibility that this could parlay its way into Matt Freese being on the World Cup roster.
If Zach Steffen hadn't gotten hurt, we might not even be talking about Matt Freese right now.
You're right, but he did.
Exactly.
But he did.
Exactly. Mosse, I want to hear what you have to say about Ajiman up top, because he is a polarizing type of figure, and we've talked about it over the course of this tournament. He had another Ajimanic type of performance today, where you're left scratching your head at some of the decisions that he makes, and then other times he's doing some really, really good stuff and a lot of dirty work up there. Obviously, didn't score, but are we just putting too much into him because we're just so desperate to have somebody up top?
Listen, there are players on this team that I do think are fighting for a starting spot next summer, like Tillman, Luna. I do think Richards and Ream, barring something crazy the next 12 months, that's going to be your starting center back pairing at the World Cup. And then there are others that are just fighting to make a 26-player squad. I would put Ajiman in that category. I don't see him as a starting caliber player for the U.S. I still think Pepe and Balogun offer a lot more, a much higher ceiling. But is there a role in a 26-player squad for a guy like Ajiman you can throw on late in the game if you're losing and you're just crossing balls into the box? Maybe he'll knock it down for somebody else, or he'll occupy the center backs, opening up room for somebody else to make a run and score. So I think he can be a useful player in that regard.
Okay. Anything else on this game that you want to mention, either of you?
Well, just to go back to Tyler Adams, it sounds like he might have picked up a knock, so that might have contributed to his sub.
Here we go. Tyler Adams knocks. Okay.
Pochettino made a very interesting comment afterwards. He really went out of his way to praise the Guatemala crowd. And, you know, in our pregame show, we ran an excellent feature about how St. Louis is this great American soccer city. That did make the crowd tonight disappointing. I thought there'd be more U.S. fans in the house. It was basically a Guatemala home game. But then Pochettino went on to say it was a good experience for these players to play in what it was essentially an away game. And, you know, we've bemoaned the fact that the U.S. isn't taking part in World Cup qualifying this cycle and missing out on these away CONCACAF matches. But the silver lining of these kinds of crowds we see sometimes is that you do sort of experience an away game environment even at home.
Yes and no, because and I hear what you're saying, and it's, of course, that's not the ideal scenario. You want to see this stadium filled up with American fans. I understand the sentiment that Pochettino is trying to convey, but no, I mean, an away game, there's so much more to it. It's the travel, it's the conditions leading up to it, it's the hotel, it's all those things that you can't manufacture or recreate.
I know this topic is evergreen. We talk about it all the time, but we're less than a year out from a World Cup. Is it disappointing that in the year 2025, this is where we still are, where the U.S. plays a quote-unquote home game against Guatemala and the whole stadium is Guatemala fans?
It's frustrating, for sure. It's frustrating for sure. And I mean, this kind of goes back to one of the conversations we were having on air about this team also rebuilding that affinity with this fan base, rebuilding that connection with this fan base, giving them a reason to want to come out and support because what they're doing on the pitch matches the passion, the love, the connection that the fans feel. And we're heading in that direction. I think this journey through this tournament has been valuable for all parties. Definitely for the players and Pochettino to experience what it's like to be in a tournament, the ups and downs, the adjustments in game throughout the course of a tournament. But then more importantly, these players and this team are showing certain characteristics, especially in the last couple of games, that hopefully this fan base is starting to buy back into and feel connected to.
But this is a business of the heart. And to ask American fans to pay money, oftentimes a lot of money, to see their team and to play on, you know, their patriotism and their affinity just for the red, white, and blue. That's all fine and well. But to your point, that has been eroded of late. And what this team has been trying to do, and I think at times has been successful over the last couple of weeks, is to say, yeah, we are worth your time. We are worth your heart and soul. We are, you know, in a more romantic notion, worthy of the money that you are going to pay and watch. And the, you know, the numbers when it comes to, you know, the game the other day with the penalties and the Matt Free stuff, that's been good to see. But there is still a lot of work to do, and we do not have a lot of time. I used to get fired up about it, and it used to really drive me crazy. And maybe I've just become numb to it over the years. It's just part and parcel of what we are as a country. And because we are this, you know, incredibly diverse melting pot of nationalities, it's inevitable that that is going to happen, maybe more so than any country in the world. But I remember going out there and playing these types of games where you're in your home country and it's an away game. And yeah, you feel crappy. You feel like, well, we represent this country that you purport to love. And, you know, maybe I'm being simplistic about it. But to your point, that's the challenge, is to win them over. to the extent that you can. You're not going to win everybody over, but if you can find a way to win them over with the way that you play and some of the stuff that we're talking about, and you have players that they relate to in the way that they play and the things that they do, that goes a long way, but it takes time. I'm not worried about next summer when it comes to the World Cup. I think the stadiums will be full. I think the U.S. games will be with U.S. fans, and they will be a home field advantage for the United States, obviously for Mexico and for Canada. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, it gets trying every once in a while, but it's something kind of passed down generation to generation. Every generation has had to deal with it. And so this team tonight, you got to deal with it too. And you came out a positive, because that's the best thing. When you actually throw it back in their face, you drink their milkshake in that moment, and you say, not on my watch. You paid your money to see your team lose.
And that was a really cool feature we ran on St. Louis. I had fun working on that. I researched some of the information in that feature. And kudos to Rob Stone, because it was his idea. He suggested it to us, and we put it together. He mentioned Danny Donegan, and Danny Donegan texted me. Danny Donegan actually is from New Jersey, but he's adopted in St. Louis because he coached there for years. And all the St. Louis people texted me because, why didn't you include my name? Why'd you? You're all wonderful. St. Louis is an OG type of soccer town, and I think that we made that apparent in the piece. And the world has moved on, the country has moved on, the sport has moved on, but St. Louis will always have a place in the heart of American soccer. Now, should we spin this forward, because we know who the U.S.'s next opponent is at the Gold Cup? In the other semifinal tonight, Mexico beat Honduras 1-0 in Santa Clara. The goal early in the second half, Raul Jimenez, assisted by 16-year-old Gilberto Mora, who's an emerging star for El Tri. I expect him to start in the final as well. So Sunday in Houston, it will be the U.S. against Mexico. 8th Gold Cup final between the two. Mexico has won 5 of the 7, but the U.S. won the last one in 2021. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. A couple of things. Number one, when it comes to this final, the United States is the underdog. The Mexico team is absolutely the favorite. As I said before, we have been told since the moment that we started this tournament that Mauricio Pochettino was bringing a B and C team, and guys aren't here, and they're injured, and they're begging off coming into the tournament. And this is just a ragtag group of inexperienced young MLS guys. And so if Mexico were to contrive a way to lose to this particular U.S. team on Sunday in Houston, it would be an incredible shame for them and a disgrace for them and for the country of Mexico to do that. Having said that, this is ultimately what we've seen many, many times before. United States versus Mexico. Different ways, different pathways, but ultimately it's a classic matchup. As I said before, I think that this is the greatest international rivalry in international soccer. And I'll put it up against anything out there, given our proximity, given our history that we have, given culture and politics and entertainment and language and all the different things that we share with our friends to the south. And so bring it on. I'm ready for it.
Mo, you putting Mexico, U.S. above Brazil, Argentina, and England, Germany?
I'm biased, all right? I'm biased, so I'll make that very clear. I'm biased. I never played in those rivalries. I played in U.S.-Mexico rivalries.
Who cares whether you played in them or not?
No, but because there's a different connection to it. Like I can speak to what it actually felt like to be on the pitch, to actually experience each of those moments, seeing something from afar and trying to interpret what that feels like. It's different. So I'm biased, and I'm agreeing with you, Lex.
Right.
First of all, I'm agreeing with you.
I'm all riled up tonight. So
I'm just saying, my opinion is biased, and I have no shame in saying that. But about this game in particular, there's a lot of storylines going into it. You guys were talking about the 16-year-old from Mexico. What a story!
Oh
right?
My goodness!
You make your manager trust you to hand you your debut in a knockout round game. You don't play any minutes throughout the group stage. You don't even come on in the third game where you've already qualified for the group. No, he trusts you to start you in a knockout game. Then you starts you again in the semifinal. You get your first assist, which ends up being an assist on the game winner for the goal. I mean, the kid has shown some. Gilberto Mora has shown some real quality, some composure. Like he's not wowed by the moments. They were beating this kid early in this game.
He's rugged. That's what is amazing to me. Like
he's tough.
He's not a big guy.
No,
I mean he's still probably not even fully developed from a physical perspective, and yet this ability to ride off tackles. I mean to take tackles too, and I don't know where that ruggedness comes from, but I love it as a trait for any player out there, especially for a young player with a kind of slight frame.
Yeah. He's not
Just-
he's I was just impressed, and as we're watching the game early on, I was talking to our producer, telling him like clip this, because the Honduran team just kept smashing him. And as a 16-year-old kid, it's so easy to allow yourself to be coddled or for your teammates to come and save you for the moments. The kid would just hop right back up and continue on with the play. And that impressed me. And then ultimately, as I said, he gets the assist on the game-winning goal. I agree Mexico's a favorite, but I like the U.S. in this game.
I mentioned that the U.S. won the last final between these two in 2021 in Las Vegas. There are a lot of parallels between that Gold Cup and this one. The U.S. also brought a B team. Mexico brought much closer to their A team. The U.S. in that Gold Cup had one lopsided win in the group stage, 6-1 over Martinique. It was 5-0 over TNT in this one. And then it was a series of 1-0 wins. They beat, I remember it was Haiti, Canada, Jamaica, and Qatar. And then if you're a U.S. fan, you hope the parallels carry over into the final because it was 1-0 U.S., Miles Robinson in extra time. So we'll see. The only difference I would say from a Mexico perspective is that 21 team was coached by Tata Martino. They were talented, but there was an air of flakiness to them. This team under Javier Aguirre feels more solid. They have a really good spine with Montes and Vasquez at the back, Edson Alvarez in front of that back line, Raul Jimenez up front. So they haven't conceded a goal in 383 minutes since the opener against the Dominican Republic. So if I had to say right now, I think Mexico ekes out another victory and wins this Gold Cup, but it's going to be a competitive game for sure because this Mexico team doesn't blow anybody away. They grind you out. So the U.S. is going to be in the game in the second half.
Can I just add something there?
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said, Mosse. But I also say that for both teams, for the U.S. and for Mexico, their opponent in this match will be the best teams either team has faced throughout this tournament. But every team that I've watched against this Mexico side, there's no one that's wowed me from an attacking standpoint. There's no one that I look at it and go, yeah, he could actually cause some problems against that back line individually, or this tandem of players look like they can really, there hasn't been anyone that stood out to me in that way as you take a look at the bracket there. But the U.S., the players that we've talked about, your Diego Lunas, your Malik Tillmans, your Ajiman bullying people, Max Arfson on the attacking side, asking questions. I look at the U.S. and there's pieces that I feel like can really win the game individually or collectively can ask questions and cause problems to that Mexico back line.
This Mexico team is suspect. And here's why. I don't trust a Mexican team that doesn't have any dysfunction. I don't trust a Mexican team that doesn't have any controversy. I don't trust a Mexican team that doesn't have any conflict. There's got to be something going on. And when that ball drops, get ready because it will happen. This is all Rafa Marquez is in charge of a team with composure and maturity. Something's
Memo
not right.
Ochoa did find a way to get a yellow.
That's true. That's true. It just poked its head above,
Yes.
above the surface
You
there.
know, we all thought this Mexico team was going to be about the two Jimenez boys up front, but Santi Jimenez, who scored the winner in the last Gold Cup final against Panama, he's become kind of a super sub. He's been starting Vega and Alvarado, flanking Raul Jimenez. So I'll be interested to see if he sticks with that for the final. I suspect he will. But I could see Santi Jimenez coming off the bench and having a moment, perhaps.
I don't like you saying that, Mosse, but no, I think we are in for a hell of a final. There's certain matchups that I'll be keying in on to see how they play out. If Max Arfson starting on that left-hand side again, himself against Alvarado, if Max Arfson can force Alvarado to have to defend more than he has to defend in his own defensive third. Set pieces, both teams have shown that they're more than capable on set pieces as well. But I do like this matchup for the U.S. And you were talking about this U.S. team winning fans over through the course of this tournament. They've won me over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe in this group of players because they've shown an ability to get results. Everything that Pochettino talks about, the grit, the fight, the scrap, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, to me, all that is just a product, and those are elements to shaping a winning mentality.
All right, Houston, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Big Fox, U.S. men's national team versus El Tri. We will be there.
My last comment on the U.S., think how different the narrative would be if a U.S. team with all their stars, Pulisic and company, had eked out a 2-1 win over Guatemala after beating Costa Rica on penalties. But when you send a quote-unquote B team, you view it through a different lens. It's not about style points. It's about grit and grinding it out. And that's what's making people fall in love with this team.
By the way, Mexico have got to have some sort of record for getting goals called off with that obscure law that is so confusing and infuriating.
Edson Alvarez again today. We had Santi Jimenez against Costa Rica. Dr. Joe did his best to explain it, but Mo, I can tell you're still not buying it.
I don't like the way that it's worded. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mosse. It's about the defender making a quote unquote deliberate attempt to play the ball. To me, that is such. There's not many moments where I feel like a player is not making a deliberate attempt to play the ball. Right. Now, they factor in things like, does he have control over his body and so on and so forth. So my issue isn't necessarily with how they apply the rule, because they're trying to apply it to the letter of the law. I just think there's just so much of a gray area attached to that law.
I actually had way less of an issue with that one than the Santi Jimenez one, because to me, that cross was going in the direction of Alvarez, who was in an offside position, and Alvarez on that play might have affected the way the defender went for the clearance. The Santi Jimenez one was bizarre because
That's
Santi's on the
me.
other side of the box, has nothing to do with where the original cross came. So,
well, we'll see if it gets cleared up, or I'm sure there's reasons for it. But Mexico's kind of unlucky. All right, what should we go to now, Mosse?
A couple of transfer stories involving U.S. players. Malik Tillman looks to be off to Bayer Leverkusen.
Good for him. That's a great move.
The fee is going to be somewhere between 35 and 40 million euros. What do you make of that, Mo?
I'm excited for Malik Tillman. It's the next step, right? He was at Bayern as a youth.
You think he'll play?
I hope so. Especially in a World Cup year.
Yeah,
I hope this move is not.
That's the fear, or the fear that I have, is that he doesn't establish himself. I mean, we've talked about how good he is, but that's a good team. There's a lot of quality. He's got to prove that he's deserving of playing time, and it's a step up.
Yeah,
big step up.
It is a big step up, but I hope that the last couple years at PSV, this summer with the national team, all this parlays itself into him going into preseason confident under a new manager, earns his spot, and continues to produce. And in a better league, he's going to be tested on a week-to-week basis. He's going to be tested in training, that he has to prove his worth and prove his merit. So I hope, obviously, I'm a glass half full type guy.
Timmy Weah turned down a move to Nottingham Forest. He's now being linked to Marseille. It's interesting. We focus so much on Gio Reyna as far as why didn't he come to the Gold Cup if he was going to play so little in the Club World Cup. Timmy Weah was kind of a non-factor for Juventus as well.
But different because Tim Weah played. He was a player on the team during the course of the season. Like, he was
there wasn't
regular
minutes.
There wasn't. Yeah, there was no question mark as to, is he playing? Is he not playing? I think maybe the lack of playing time during the Club World Cup is because there was potential for him to be on the move. But yeah, similar to Malik Tillman, I hope Tim Weah finds a home where he's going to play consistently, because to me, he's a big part of this national team and a big part of our chances during the World Cup.
We have another tournament on Fox Sports this summer, which got underway today, the Women's European Championship. We had the first two matches in Group A. First up, Finland beat Iceland 1-0. Katarina Kosola with the goal. And then Norway came from behind to knock off host Switzerland 2-1. Ada Hegerberg among the scorers there, her 50th international goal. She captained Norway today. You covered those two games. What do you make of it?
It was fun. It was great to kick off another tournament. And, as I always say, men's, women's, co-ed, naked, doesn't matter. People kicking a ball, I will be there. I love to talk about it. And this particular tournament, first time that we're doing this on Fox, it's going to be fun to see. And obviously, you have the big guns when it comes to Spain and England and Germany and the like. But it's also fun to see, for example, a team like Finland and the Boreal Owls going and getting a win right off the bat, and the permutations when it comes to the group stage, and also to see a country like Switzerland host it, go gaga for it. I mean, they're changing the cross lights to actually have soccer players in them. So it's fun to see a country embrace the tournament and the responsibility and the opportunity, because we're talking a lot about 2026. So we got plenty of incredible folks in front of the camera, behind the camera. They're going to bring this to you the entire tournament.
Switzerland coached by former U.S. and Brazil boss Pia Sundhage.
Exactly.
Tomorrow we've got a Group B doubleheader: Belgium, Italy on FS1, then Spain, Portugal on Fox. We get our first look at the reigning world champion, Spain. Aitana Bonmati battling meningitis. We'll see if she can play, but even if she doesn't, Spain's got plenty of talent
Yeah, they're gonna be just
otherwise. England, we know, are the defending champions. Germany have won this by far the most times, 8 times. England beat Germany in the last final at Wembley. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun tournament. And, we're viewing this through the lens of how these teams stack up against the United States, thinking about the next World Cup in Brazil in 2027. The U.S. women beat Canada in a friendly today, 3-0. So that's going to be an interesting sort of compare and contrast.
You mentioned Spain, which obviously will get a lot of attention being the World Cup champions, but this is something that they haven't won. And it seems that everything that Spain touches turns to goal. So we'll see if they can add this to their ever-expanding trophy category, cabinet out there. Where to now, Mosse?
I do want to talk about the Club World Cup
Yep.
because the quarterfinals are set. And since we last spoke, 2 more big European teams bit the dust. Champions League finalists Inter Milan lost 2-0 to my beloved Fluminense. Kanu early, Hercules late. And then the craziest match of the tournament so far, Al Hilal eliminated Manchester City 4-3. Marcos Leonardo with 2 goals. Malcolm and Koulibaly scored the others for them. It was Bernardo Silva, Haaland, and Foden for Manchester City. Now, we talked about when Inter Miami got knocked out 4-0 by PSG, and that concluded MLS's involvement.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of hand-wringing over the spending restrictions and how MLS needs to give its teams a better chance to compete. And Al Hilal knocking off Manchester City, getting to the quarterfinals, did not help in that regard because now there's this inevitable compare and contrast going on between the Saudi League and MLS. Now, the Saudis, we know that might be the other extreme. I mean, nobody expects MLS to spend on that level, but is there any lesson to be learned there that the reality is in today's footballing world is if you want to compete at the highest levels, you have to be throwing money around, and MLS does need to loosen the restrictions, Mo?
I would say that, the priority has to be the biggest takeaway for me from this competition from an MLS lens is that we have to just continue to keep improving the product on the pitch, right? And that means finding ways to get better players here, better players that can raise the floor of teams and also elevate the ceiling. Because when you look at the way that these 3 teams, Seattle Sounders, LAFC, Inter Miami, played out this tournament, it left you kind of wanting a little bit more and thinking, what if there was whatever, there was a little bit more flexibility for these teams to be more competitive. But ultimately, I think that'll be conversations that are going to be ongoing as we want to have more and more and more success in these kind of competitions.
When Ronaldo went to the Saudi League, Messi went to MLS. Ronaldo said, well, the Saudi League is clearly better than MLS. A lot of people are pointing to this Club World Cup as evidence that Ronaldo was right. So this has become yet another flashpoint in the Ronaldo-Messi eternal rivalry.
Also, when we talked about this, it's not an excuse. It's just the reality that the MLS structure is very, very different. And so, for example, we've often talked about Liga over in France. And PSG, obviously, Champions League title, one of the elites of the world, and they spend a tremendous amount of money. And more often than not, that money translates them into kind of strolling through a club season and winning titles. So if MLS, all they cared about was doing well in the Club World Cup, they would just put all the money into one team, have the best players, and then do it. But would that mean that MLS was great? And it also, as I've said before, it would kind of violate. So to your point, you want all the teams to lift up, and that's where I want that spending to increase and let teams that want to spend. And yeah, there's going to be some disparity, but you don't want a complete chaos and spectrum where you have the haves and the really, really have-nots.
It's a fair point. Not only do you have a salary cap in MLS, but you have 30 teams, which is more than any other top flight league. So the talent is spread out over 30 different teams. And yeah, the Saudi league, it's very top heavy. There are 4 clubs that are essentially backed by the government, and those are the 4 clubs that are signing.
By the way, it's relative in Saudi Arabia. If you're the top heavy club in Saudi Arabia, I'm not crying for any of the lowly, teams that aren't in the top.
But so the quarterfinal matchups, on one side of the bracket, you have PSG versus Bayern, Real Madrid against Dortmund. But then on the other side, only one European club. You have Palmeiras of Brazil against Chelsea, and then Fluminense against Al Hilal. So there's a pretty good chance you're going to have a non-European team in the final, which I think is really going to validate this competition. A lot of people were worried that the European teams would dominate, but that hasn't been the case.
I actually see Palmeiras beating Chelsea.
It's very possible, yeah.
I do, and I would love it for the sake of producer Brad being annoyed, and I can have some reason to talk some more trash to him. But it's been an intriguing competition. I mean, the upsets that we've seen, the stories and the teams that have come here that were unknowns that got a chance to really announce themselves, the different leagues that have been on display, because that's always the hardest part to really determine. Teams that never ever face each other, and teams that never get an opportunity to face each other in competitive matches to really get a sense of what the levels are like. And now we're getting some semblance of that. I still think the favorite is PSG in the competition. But that being said, the Brazilian sides have really impressed. Your beloved Fluminense, a chance to continue to advance. That's incredible.
But I think where the gold is, I mean, look, there's plenty of money, but where the gold is in terms of relevance and attention is playing up some of the stuff that we have seen in the competition, the intra country and the intra federation type of competition that comes on. And I think they've really tapped into something that, into the psyche, if you will. And we've talked about the insecurities and all that kind of stuff. And if they play that up going forward, I think that this thing can be something even bigger than it already is.
The Fluminense coach, Renato Gaúcho, he likes to brag that Pele may have scored 1,000 goals, but I've slept with over 5,000 women.
Wow,
He's
really?
like the Wilt Chamberlain
He's got
of
that
Brazilian
going for
football. Yeah, but he's orchestrating this very impressive run with Fluminense, so he can coach as
whatever.
well.
I mean, that seems
Somehow he
like-
finds time to coach as
exactly.
well.
I mean, he must be exhausted. All right. Anything else, Mosse?
To bring this pod back full circle,
Okay.
Mo, you were at the Rose Bowl 2011. You were part of that U.S. squad that lost to Mexico. Giovanni Dos Santos scored that incredible chip. In the 2007 final, the U.S. won at Soldier Field. Benny Feilhaber scored an
great
incredible goal. We mentioned this is going to be the 8th U.S.-Mexico Gold Cup final. Do you have one memory that stands out when you think about, doesn't even have to be in a Gold Cup final, just this rivalry in general, you think U.S.-Mexico?
Well, speaking about that game, I remember how annoying it was driving into the Rose Bowl because it felt like we were in Mexico City. It genuinely felt like that. And I remember walking into the stadium for warm-ups and just looking around thinking, where is my family in the midst of all this? That was one of the first things that came to mind. But it's just a rivalry that as a kid, you grow up and you dream of playing in it. If you dream of playing for the United States men's national team, you think of playing or you dream of playing in this kind of rivalry where there's a trophy at stake, where all eyes are on you. You have a chance to impress your country, to represent your country with pride. And that's what you've heard communicated through most of these players. Anyone that's worn the colors of the United States will kind of echo that same sentiment. And for a team that's faced so much leading up to this moment, this is a massive opportunity. And for Pochettino, this is the last competitive game, the last competitive tournament that this group of players and Pochettino is going to manage before the World Cup. So not to, over dramatize what the significance of this game can be, there is a lot of importance on it.
Yeah, I think this U.S. team, has nothing to lose and everything to gain. And they should be licking their chops going into this opportunity again as a kind of a comfortable underdog role, whether it's true or not. I think that's the perception and maybe a little bit of the reality. You got one more thing? Because I have one more thing before we go.
I hope U.S. fans show up in Houston on Sunday.
Yep.
And for those of you that can't afford a ticket, maybe you should have worked a little harder.
Wow.
I'll get in trouble for one.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I just wanted to tell a real quick story. I was out in where was I? In Hermosa Beach, which is down south here in LA. And we were having some drinks, beautiful beach setting. The sun was setting, all that kind of stuff. And we were at the bar, and a young man across the bar pointed at me, gave me a thumbs up, and then proceeded to tell me that he listens to the pod, to say hello. And more importantly, he said, you know what? I'm not even into soccer, and I like to listen to the pod. And that's one of the best compliments that we can get. And look, I know that there's people out there that are, knee deep in soccer. I know that there's people out there that are in the weeds. But what we have tried to do, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think what we've tried to do, and I think we've done pretty successfully, is try to bring as many people into this tent as possible. We're not dumbing it down, okay? But we're also not just getting all geeky and nerdy. We're trying to appeal to as many people and invite them in with what we're doing. And I'm just telling you this story because it's working in whatever we're doing. And we'll keep doing it. And we'll tweak. We'll do some different things. And I know I was yelling at producer Sean and Kyla and everybody in there, but they do an incredible job at making us look good show after show after show. And speaking of shows, we are going to be in Houston doing a live show following what is hopefully a U.S. win, but regardless, after the U.S.-Mexico game in Houston. So we're going to be looking forward to that. Anything before we go, Mo?
Let's get a dub, man. Let's
Right?
finish this thing off on the right foot. Like,
Right?
it's all
Feeling
that-
good. You're feeling good.
Yeah,
You should
man,
be feeling good.
I'm excited. All right, let's get to Houston already and get some celebrations going.
Mosse?
That's it.
That's it. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in yet again. Keep pounding and reviewing and subscribing and rating and downloading, doing all the different things. Like I said, pounding, smashing, up and down, double fist over there on the old YouTube channel. Subscribe, blah, 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 blah. All the, what's the other stuff called? The Apple and the Spotify and all that kind of stuff. And oh, yeah. Yerba Madre here. Yerba Madre here. Thank you so much, Yerba Madre. We'll talk to you again, like I said, Sunday from Houston. U.S. versus Mexico. Let's go. Vamos! And size the day.